Hi everyone, welcome to Ajiro Tech. Ajiro Tech. Okay, we're looking at from the textbook, the Cambridge IGCSE ICT textbook, and we're looking at the topic, chapter 9, the third edition. We're looking at audiences. Yes, audiences, and we're looking at the audience appreciation. You know, this is actually a cool topic because it talks about more presenting, bringing your ideas into the use of your presentations, how you can present, get your target audience as much as possible, and put those how you can reach your audience to make it interactive or engaging. And we're going to be looking all of that right here in this video. Okay, starting now. Okay, so audience appreciation. When we look at audience appreciation, we're looking at planning and creating ICT solutions. In fact, when we are planning it, when we are creating the solutions, it is important to consider that the audience who will either use or take part in the solution, when we are presenting to our audience, we need to know the kind of people we are presenting to. So when we're planning, we're creating those ICT solutions, it is important to consider the audience that we're doing work that is going to be listening or either taking part in one way in our presentations. Okay. Now there are two different examples to show what could be meant by audience appreciation. Okay. Now number one is in the first example, we're going to consider using presentation software to make a presentation for an audience. Okay. And in the second one example, we're going to consider the general audience requirement when we are developing a new website. It's very important. Of course, you need to note this that both examples will follow very similar steps because the end result are very similar. It's so important that we need to talk about, give these examples to talk about when we are using this presentation software to make a presentation just for an audience, or maybe you want to consider the requirements we are developing, just not just a website but a project as much as possible. It could be marketing or and whatever you. Okay. Now we're looking at giving a presentation to an audience. Okay, giving a presentation on audience, right? It focuses at specific audience using presentation software. Okay, so in this example, the ICT solution is a presentation aimed at specific audience using this presentation software when writing a presentation. Of course, you will need to consider all the following factors, and this is so important that we need to consider all these following factors. Okay, so let's look at the first one is the age of the target group, right? It could be for young children, we have different appreciations and response compared to a more matured group of adults, for example. Okay, so the age of the target group. Okay, if you're giving a presentations to children, you need to know the content that needs to be there. And if you're giving it to a mature group of adults, you need to know also the content that's going to be there. The next one is the experiences of the audience. Okay, it's not just the age of the target group that you need to consider, but you also need to consider the experience of the audience. Remember, they need to have an experience. You're not just showing them what it can do, but they need to see the experience behind what you're showing them. For example, we see a board of company directors would expect a different approach compared to an audience composed of teenage school children. If it's teenage school children, you put some pictures that's very lighting. For board of company directors, obviously your presentation is going to be different because the experiences of the audience differ depending on the field and the maturity of the people of the audience that you are presenting to. Is so important, and that we need to know this. And I strongly believe this is going to guide you, not just as a student, but anyone watching this is actually going to guide you on how to make a PowerPoint. Okay. The next one is the expectations of the audience. We've talked about the age of the target group. We've talked about the experience and now we're talking about the expectations of the audience. Okay, and if you're advertising or you're giving a presentation on a new restaurant, an older audience might expect to see fine wine or a good waiter service. Okay, you want to give a presentation about new restaurant, that's what they want to see, right? Probably you're renovating to get a new restaurant, you're moving, and you want to make a presentation for people to donate. They want to see those things that make it. What are you? Why are you moving to a new restaurant? What are the things that a lot of things they expect. For example, it could be expansion. Business is good, and you want to expand. A lot of things that needs to be considered. Whereas a group of students might be more interested in pizza and fast encounter service. Now, for an older audience, they want to see fine wine. For students, obviously, of course, they don't take alcohol, so they want to look at maybe pizzas. They want to look at maybe the fast counter service. They want to look at just light food that you're bringing in into your restaurant. Okay. The next thing is the knowledge of the audience. We've talked about the age of the target group. We've talked about the experiences of the audience, and well, we talked about the expectations of the audience. Now we're talking about the knowledge of the audience. For example, graduates in math, okay, would be more comfortable seeing equations in a presentation than a group of history students. Okay, so it's all about the knowledge of the audience. Who are you presenting to? What are the capacity or the group of people that you are presenting to? If it's a math student, you can't be presenting history to them. They want to see the equations. They're more comfortable to see those equations right there on the slide. In the case of history, they want to see a lot of war, a lot of war about the Potsdam, the USSR, yeah, as much as about the Cold War in 1980 something, what happened between Germany, the Soviet Union, etc., etc., etc. They want to see all that. They want to see all that. But for the math students, they want to see, they want to see algebraic expression. They want to see simultaneous equation. They want to see a lot of things, right? They want to see quadratic equations, yeah, a lot. Just they want to see equations, right? That makes them that gives that captures the audience and gives them that knowledge, that knowledge base, or that they're actually flowing with you. Okay, yes. Um, the next thing we're going to talk about is characteristics of your audience. Okay, how can you find out the characteristics of your audience? Okay, and now the following are just some of the market technique you might employ to identify the characteristics of your target audience. So important. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, so we talk about interviewing a cross section of the target group, okay, to find out how to engage the audience. If it involves a major ICT solution, so interviews helps a lot, right? To know the characteristics of your audience, to know what you're expecting to present, and interviews are a great way to to get a lot of feedback from the kind of audience you want to present to. And yeah, it involves a major IT solutions. Then this may have to involve many of the techniques that were described in chapter 7. Now, what was described in chapter 7 is the system life cycle, and we talked about the analysis stage. And in the analysis stage, we talked about interviews, and we talked about the pros and cons of interviews, how people are able to open up and to talk about, to go deeper about certain issues about the system, and that will help you to have an idea on presenting or putting more content in your presentations, in either creating talking about new software development, talking about a new restaurant, talking about a new website, etc., etc., etc. Okay, because the whole idea is you're presenting something for a target audience. Okay, and in the target audience, you need to know, they need to have an experience, they need to have an expectation, they need to have the knowledge. Because if you're presenting a business proposal to people who don't have idea on business, then it's not going to work. Okay, and we look at giving out questionnaires or online surveys to people in the target group. Now, if you check this, most time what Google does is they give out surveys. Okay, how has this experience been to you? The new interface, has it been? They want to get all these feedbacks so that they can be able to go back to present, to make a proposal, to maybe develop more and more and more and more and more. Remember, the end goal is money. Okay, and people want to see what they're paying for. Okay, so giving out questionnaires or online service to people in the target group to find out their background, okay, interests, and so on, so that your solutions can be tailored to meet the full expectations, not half, full expectations of the audience. Very, very important. Okay, very, very important. Now, once you have data from your audience, you can then carry out some analysis of it. Okay, to spot trends, draw some conclusions about them. The sophistication of data analysis would depend on how large the audience is likely to be. We're going to be talking about giving a sample presentation to an audience. Okay, now let's consider a phone company who markets a number of different mobile phones. Yes, the company has decided to produce two presentations. You're looking at using an ICT solution regarding the sales and future of four different mobile phones they market and sell. Now you need to look at one presentation is to be what given to the mobile phone sales team, okay, who will receive different bonus payment depending on the phone sold, okay, because now they want to they market different on mobile phones. Now, presentation on the sales team. If you sell this amount of phones, these are the bonuses that you're going to get. The second presentation is to be given to a potential group of mobile phone customers, people who are going to, yeah, okay, see, if you buy from us, this is what you should buy from, okay. This is why this is what makes our mobile phone so exceptional than every other people. People are killing themselves for iPhone. They're like, it's literally, if you don't have an iPhone, what then do you have? Like, literally, if you're not using an iPhone, like, what are you using? Like, literally, are you even in this century? Like, really? And also, that tells you how influential the iPhone market has been to the digital world, because obviously they have great sales in the digital market. Okay, yeah. Now, the next one is how would these two presentations differ? Now, these two presentations talking about this, how would they differ? Because the first group is we have, which is the sales team, is going to have a technical knowledge. Okay, right here, they are going to have a technical knowledge. It's very important. They're going to have a technical knowledge and will be interested in the profitability of each sale, because obviously they are marketers. They know, okay, if I sell these numbers of phones, this is the amount I'm going to get. Then the hustle begins. Okay, and the second group, which are the end users, will only be interested in the price. Okay, for iPhones, I can buy an iPhone for like $20,000. Never. I can buy that. So obviously the price has to be something that end users are able to be interested in to get, right? And what are the features on the phone? People are killing themselves for iPhones because of the features it has compared to the Android market. Okay, the Android market is still selling. The Android market is still selling, but if you're comparing the Android market with the iOS market, the difference in sales is wild. Over here in Nigeria, you literally get you literally see the comparison between the two market is so at a different scale. The iOS market is selling like wildfire, but the Android devices as well is also selling, but everybody's just, like, literally you can get a quick sale if you're using iOS devices. So that tells you how much people are interested in not just the price but also in the features. Okay, now let's look at the key factors when writing the presentations. Okay, so what are the key factors when writing the presentation? We look at the language used. What language are you using to communicate to your audience? Is this something that they'll be able to understand? The next one will be the need for multimedias. The need for multimedias. Are they going to be a form of video, a display of videos? Is it going to be a form of, a form of design? That when people watch it, like, they're dazzled with it, like, wow, cool, this is nice. I'm liking the slides, I'm liking the progression. I'm like, they have that vibe, the vibe for it, and they're able to, it captures the attention of your audience. Okay, and then again, when you're writing a presentation, you have to look at the length of the presentation. You don't want the presentation to be too lengthy because people get tired so easily. I've gotten complaint from my students like, sir, if it's possible to just break down the slides, just do it bit by bit. It's possible because you make it so long and so long and it's so long. Now those are feedback. It helps me to be able to break down my slide bit by bit, and that's what I did in ICT application. I was able to break it bit by bit so that it's easier for the student to just, you know what, let me just absorb this for today. Maybe tomorrow I go for this. Maybe next tomorrow I go for this. It's so important that we know this. Okay, the next one is the need for audience participation. An interactive approach. A presentation that is one-sided is boring, so boring. Okay, it needs to have a kind of an interactive approach when your audience are able to give you feedback. Okay, they're able to contribute, to talk about it, and to be part of the presentation. Okay, and of course the example used to illustrate certain points. These are key factors when you write your presentation. What are the examples you're going to use? What are the things you're going to use to cite those points of yours? Okay, remember, presentation is based on points. It shouldn't be too wordy, but it should be based on points. Okay, all right. The next one we're going to talk about is now all what we have just said in summary. Okay, we've looked at the language use. Now, what are the language use? Okay, no vocabulary, no vulgar words or use of inappropriate language, since this can easily offend people. Don't use such words, okay? Because it can easily offend people, so don't use it. Okay, don't use it. Okay, the use of technical terms should be reserved for experienced or technical audience. Don't use words that can be easily confusing to people. Use simple words that an average audience can listen, except in cases where you're doing a presentation for a major audience. Okay, so we're doing a presentation for a major audience. Okay, now the use of sounds. Okay, video and animations, talking about multimedia use. So the use of sounds, video and animation will always catch the attention of the audience any day, anytime. Okay, the use of your sound, video, people are captured by anything that is moving, that animations. People, it gets boring when it's inanimate. Okay, it's just still, and it's not moving. It can really be boring. Okay, now it's also important not to overdo it in case the message gets hidden because of too many distractions in the presentation. Don't overdo it. Don't just play videos or play this, and that can make the context of the message to be hidden because of the distractions. Okay, a young audience is more likely to respond to loud music and embedded video clips. Okay, so you have to know this as well. Okay, complicated descriptions are often better explained using graphs or animations. So when there are complicated descriptions, it's better you use other things to explain it, and using the graphs or animations to explain it rather than just talking about it. Okay, people understand better when they see it. Okay, long presentations will only work if they are talking about the length of presentation. So long presentation will only work if they're interesting and engage the audience. Okay, if it doesn't engage the audience, if it's not interesting, then it's going to be boring. Okay, another length of presentation we need to talk about is a very young audience would quickly get bored and start to become reckless. Okay, so if it's not something that's engaging, they become bored and they start to become reckless. I see that most time in my students. I try as much as possible to make it very interactive so that they can just flow with it and get it. Because if it becomes too much, they're young teenagers. They can get bored. So it depends on your kind of the audience. Now, for interactive presentation, we look at asking questions or getting the audience to try things is always a good strategy, okay, to make it interactive. So ask questions to the audience, get feedback from the audience, or maybe give them a task or something to ensure that they are being engaged. Okay, now, but always be aware that not everyone wants to take part. So you need to also have that not all your audience will want to be part of the interactive process. So you need to know that. Okay, and finally, example use. When using example to illustrate ideas, okay, remember to be understanding. Okay, don't refer to meat product if the audience is a vegetarian. So know the kind of examples you're using. Don't use examples that can be offensive or something that can just turn off people. You need to know, you need to have an understanding about that. Very, 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 very important that you do that. Okay, so I think these are samples to audience and key factors when we are writing the presentation. So we're going to end here, and in my next video we'll be looking at the part two, which is the audience characteristics when we are developing a new ICT solution. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more amazing teaching on IGCSE ICT practical. Trust me, you're gonna love it. Bye. We're going to be looking at the part two. Yes, we're looking at the part two of audiences. Okay, and in this video, we're looking at the series which we've been on, which is the part two of it, and we'll be looking at the audience characteristics when developing a new ICT solution. Yes. Now, in this example, we are setting out to develop a new website. Remember, we talked about in the first example, we talked about presenting software to make a presentations for an audience, right? So we're talking about we consider using a presentation software, how we're going to make a presentation to an audience. Now, in the second example, we're looking at how we're going to um, develop a new website, and we're going to present it to our target audience. Okay, now let's go forward. Now, audience characteristics are very, very important, okay? Because there are certain things that we need to consider before this audience characteristics. Now, we need to, and one of them is the audience characteristics, because the factors regarding this audience that we want to present to is their characteristics. It's also important. Yes, we'll talk about other things, but characteristics is key. And why is it key? Because number one, we look at the age range. Okay, the age range is so important. You want to present your ideas to people that can be able to comprehend what you're passing out, the information you're passing out. Two is the income level. Okay, the income level is very, very important that we need to talk about, and we're going to talk about it as well. The three is the interest, and four, disabilities or impairment. So let's talk about it in details. Now, for the age range, we have very young children needs to have animations, bright colors, large font size, and sound. If they are young children, they need to have that. They need to have that animation. They need to have the bright colors, that large font size that they can see very well, and sound. For other users, they will be more interested with the actual content. Therefore, a simple, attractive color scheme, which is easy to navigate, is very important. Okay, and for income, suppose our website is selling cars. Okay, because you're presenting to an audience about the new website you want to develop. So supposing the website is selling cars, it is essential to carefully consider the target audience, the income level. Okay, this will clearly dictate which model ranges are advertised in the website. If you're talking about, is the website selling cars, you want to go to people that have the means of purchasing or investing into such project. You don't want to just, because like I said, your target audience is very, very important. It is very, very important. Remember in part one, I talked about four things: the age of the target group, the experience, the expectations, and the knowledge. It is so important right here in the income. The next one is the interest. Okay, the interest is very, very, very important, because suppose we are developing a music website. Okay, remember we're talking about developing a new website, and we're not specific on the kind of website we're going to develop. So it's important for us to know the interest. If it's still on selling cars, people need to have the interest. Are they going to buy it? Is it the kind of models they like? For music, they need to know you need to know the interest of your target audience. Do they like classical? Do they like K-pop? Right? Are they K-pop fans? Do they like rock music? Do they like hip hop? Are they pop? Are they pop fans? Do they like jazz music? I love jazz music. So obviously, if you're coming to me with metal or folk music or rock music, you're not gonna get my attention. But if you're talking, if you're going with, I like K-pop, I like the classical, I like jazz, I like country, I like Western music. So if you're presenting on developing a music website to be displaying such genres of music, and you're talking about EDM and metal, well, you've lost me because I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so it's important to know the interest of your target audience. Okay, the website will need to include articles, offers, which will also reflect their music preference. The next one is disabilities. Okay, so if the website is to be used by people who are visually impaired, that they don't see clearly, then we need to use a large font size, right? Using contrasting colors, keep the language concise, so there isn't much text to read, and this will include sound as much as possible. So these are the audience you need to know. What kind of audience are you expecting on your website, right? And this is so important. Now, as in the previous example, right? You could determine the characteristics of the audience who are likely to use the website by one, you're interviewing a cross section of the target group, giving out questionnaires, okay, or surveys to people in the target group to find out their background, interests, age range, and so on. Not just interviewing, but you're giving out questionnaires, right, to people in the target group to find out their background, what do they like, their interests, the age range, and so on. This will give you an idea of the kind of content you should put on your website, okay? The last one is analyzing this data and drawing conclusions about the audience. You are analyzing, and then you're also drawing the conclusions about the kind of audience that should be on your website. Okay. The next one is why we need to consider the need of our audience. Okay, talking about the needs of an audience, of the audience. What do we need to, why do we need to consider the needs for our audience? It's important that we need to consider because number one, they are the ones visiting the website. Okay, they're the ones visiting the website, so it's important for us to do that. Now, if the audience is once is so important because we look at the young children, the adult and older children and older people as well. So once you have established the characteristics of the website, of the audience that the website is aimed at, it is necessary to understand their specific need in a bit more depth, okay? To ensure the final product is fit for the intended purpose. Because you don't want to develop a website and at the end of the day, it's not the kind of people that you want that are in there. Okay, so obviously you're not going to have more traffic, right? Or obviously the website you're building it for the company may not be very, very effective. Okay, and that's why we need to consider the needs of three different age group who would use the new website. Look at the first one is young children. If your children want to visit your website, they need something that is bright and cheerful colors. They are all about colors. They need animation, they need sound, right? They want more pictures than text. Too much of writing makes it very, very boring. Okay, it needs to be a large font and simple short words. Okay, if possible, they should include games, right? That we engage them, as much as possible. It must be easy to use. It must have that easy interactive interface. Okay, we talked about the design stage in system life cycle, and that is very, very important. Okay, if there are voice interfaces as much as possible, it needs to be there. For adult and older children, the interactive display needs to be there, right? The content must be interesting. It requires a good mixture of text and images, okay? Careful to use appropriate language level, very, very important, okay? Because they are still adult and they are older children, you have to be careful. Use bullet points to make the content easier to read. For other people, okay, which is our grandmas and our parents, our grandparents, right? Grandma, granddad, right? You have to use constructed colors, right? Which is make it easier to distinguish words. Larger font in case of reading difficulty, easier to use interface like touchscreen. You make the display consistent from pages to pages. Do not use too much technical language as this may be less familiar they may be less familiar with this. So we've seen the different age group and the need for the audience, the kind of audience that need to visit your website, and who is this website intended for? Is it intended for young children? Is it intended for the adults or older children, or for our grandmas and granddads? Okay. And finally, we'll be looking at why we need to consider the needs of our audience. Why do we need to consider the needs of our audience? Why is it important to respectfully consider these needs? Why? And we're going to be looking at it in the next slide. One, if the audience is made up of older people or people with disabilities who have sight problems, then it is important to make sure the website has clear to read fonts. Okay. Number two, complex language can be a turn off to children or for people who have English as their second language. The text needs to be clear and easy to read for this reason. Three, it is necessary to hold the attention of the users. Otherwise, they give up using the website. Four, it has to be good, attractive. The screen designs will attract users to the website. Okay, and it has to keep interface clear, right, and easy to use to keep people engaged. So it has to, there should be that keeping interface. It has to be clear, okay, and easy to use. Okay, lots of typing can be very frustrating, right, as can badly design websites. Okay, so where the user seems to go round in the big circle, so you have to be careful. It should be easier to navigate, so easy and accessible to do that. Okay, so if you know your audience and understand their needs before starting to develop the new ICT solution, then it is far more likely to be successful. The idea outlined in both example applies whenever you're developing a new ICT solution or product, okay, as well as presentations or websites. This could be a new computer game, a database, or a new virtual reality system. If you know your audience and you understand their needs before you go ahead to develop that project, I promise you it is likely going to be very, very successful. And so thank you for staying tuned with us, and we've come to the end of the series. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Very, very important you subscribe for my YouTube channel. There's so many contents to dive yourself in to ensure that you get the very, very best out of your IGCSE ICT. Bye. Hello everyone, welcome to Ajiro Tech. We're going to be looking at the final part of audiences, and we'll be looking at copyright. Yes, software copyright to be more specific. Yes, and it's actually a big issue, and we need to talk about, we need to address this issue right away, right here in this video. Okay, so software is protected by copyright laws, okay, in much the same way as music CDs, movies, and articles for magazines and books are protected. The same way your musics are protected, your movies are protected. They have the copyright law. The same thing with software. Okay, that's why it's also important. Please do not use content that does not belong to you and just publish it, because there is a law. Okay, there is a law concerning that. Okay, so when software is supplied on CDs or DVDs or online, there are certain rules that must be obeyed. Okay, because it is illegal to do the following that we need to talk about. Okay, number one, it is illegal to make a software copy and then sell it or give it away to a friend or colleague. If you've bought it, please don't share it. Okay, because there is a law concerning that. Okay, use software on a network or on multiple computers unless a license has been acquired to allow this to happen. Okay, in most organizations, it's always on a network, so obviously you're using the software that you have paid for. Okay, use coding from the copyright software in your own software. Okay, and then pass this on or sell it as your own without the permission of the copyright holder. So it is illegal to do it. It's illegal to make a software copy and sell it. It's illegal to use softwares on a network or multiple computers unless a license has been acquire. Okay, you're using it on this software or you're sharing it on a network, it is illegal to use. It's also illegal to use people codes. Okay, the coding from the copyright, so you're trying to duplicate it and then you pass this on as your own software, then you sell it as your own without obtaining permission from the copyright holder is wrong. It is illegal to rent out a software package without permission or to do so from the publisher. It's also illegal to use the name of the copyrighted software or other softwares without agreement to do so. Please, it is wrong. Okay, now we'll be looking at um, under copyright. We're also going to be looking at software piracy. Yes. Software, we've talked about software copyright, people who just copy people's content without permission. And then now we're looking at the piracy. Okay. Yes, software piracy is the illegal copying of software. Okay, it's a big issue because we have the copyright law. People will copy things and then sell it away, and then the piracy is the illegal copying of the software. It's a big issue among software companies. They take many steps to stop the illegal copying and to stop any illegal copies being used once they have been sold. Okay, so let's there are numbers of ways software is protected, either by making the installer to agree to certain conditions or by methods which require the original software to be present for it to work. So let's look at it. Okay, now when software is being installed, the user may be asked to key in a unique reference number or product key, which is so important. Okay, and those product key are strings of letters and numbers. Okay, which was supplied with the original copy of the software. Okay, for Microsoft, you have them. Just that my own is I have, but my is the license expired, so obviously I will need to get a copy of. I need to get a key for it to actually the license. Okay, the user will be asked to click on OK or I agree or put a cross in a box to agree to the license agreement before the software continues to install. Right. For number three, if supplied as a hard copy, the original software packaging often comes with a sticker informing the purchaser that it is illegal to make copies of the software. The label is often in the form of hologram, indicating that this is a genuine copy. Okay, indicating that. Number four, some software will only run if the CD or DVD or memory stick is actually in the drive. Okay, this stops illegal multiple use and network use of the software. And finally, some software will only run if a dongle is plugged into one of the USB port. Now, a dongle is a small device, okay, usually plugged into one of the computer USB ports, right? It is used to allow wireless communication with the devices, okay, such as keyboard. It can also be used to protect software. For example, it may contain important files. That means the software will only run if the dongle is plugged into the computer. Note that the Federation Against Software Theft, known as FAST, FAST, was set up in the UK many years ago to protect software industry against piracy. FAST, the Federation Against Software Theft, prosecute organizations and individuals who are involved in any copyright infringement. Okay, this is done by legal penalties for anyone found guilty of such infringement. Right, similar organization exists in many countries, is in the US and other part of the European countries, globally, to protect the software and other intellectual properties as well from piracy. Examples include your international intellectual properties alias, which is in the US, and the Japan Intellectual Properties Association with the JIPA, right, in Japan, and etc. 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 So please, it's important. Don't copyright people's software. Don't pirate their software. Please ensure that you're using a genuine software. Very, very important. And with this, we have come to the end of Audiences, we started from the very beginning. We talked about, just a recap. Okay, we started with the audience appreciation. We went to talking about you creating ICT solutions. Could be a project, could be a website, whatever you want to create. We talked about the examples to show how you're going to present an audience and how you're going to consider those general audience when you're creating your website. We talked about giving presentations on audiences. We gave the citations of it. We talked about the different group. Talk about your target group. Talk about the experience, the expectations, the knowledge. We talked about characteristics of your audience, and also how we can interview them, get to know them in depth. Okay, and we talked about presentation for marketing team and for end users. We talked about the factors when writing the presentation, and of course various factors, talking about multimedias, talking about languages used, the length of presentation, etc., etc. We also talked about audience characteristics when we're developing a new ICT solution. We talked about the interests, we talked about the income, etc., etc. Okay, we talked about the needs of the audience. What kind of people that needs to visit what you have created, the new ICT solutions? Are they young children? Are they adults? Older children? And then we went into it's important that we need to consider their needs, and especially when you're talking about creating of a new website. We also talked about copyright in this video, and then software copyright and software piracy. Okay, so yes, we have come to the end of this topic. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, right, for more in-depth teachings, and please like this video, share it to your classmates all over the world. Bye.